Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. You didn't see that, did you? So, as you guys can see, we got some new tires. But, for today, we're not going to be talking about these tires in particular. We're going to be talking about my last set of tires, which we just finished up. Unfortunately, I got a nail in my Achilles. They are the Achilles ATR Sport 2s. Sorry, not quotations, actually ATR Sport 2s. Anyways, got a nail on one of the tires. It was irreparable. It was one of the better tires as well. It was one of the rears, which really sucks, but at the same time, it was really good for me because, like I said in the last Autocross video, we've been on the hunt. But before we move on to the new tires, I'd like to talk about the old tires, give my review, my feedback on them, how they treated me, how I treated them. Not very well. I think you guys have seen from the Autocross videos, I did not treat them well at all. So first things first, let's go down the basics of what the Achilles ATR Sport 2s are exactly. It's some of the specifications. The ATR Sport 2s, they are a 400 treadwear AAA tire, meaning a whole bunch of stuff I don't know about, but AAA, from what I know, is one of the higher standards of tires. So rating wise, it's not a bad tire at all. And the tread pattern, as you can see here, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty sporty tread pattern. It's got all the grooves you would need for water evacuation. Although I gotta say, in South Florida, it's pretty difficult for any tire to get rid of some of the water that we have on our highways. So overall, it's a sport compound tire. It is an all-season technically, although I wouldn't really consider it your normal all-season. Most all-seasons are a little higher treadwear than that. You're not going to get the same kind of life out of these that you would, let's say, the Michelins that come on RFRS's stock, AS3s, I believe. Those kinds of tires will last you 50, 60,000 miles. These, on the other hand, probably around 40,000 miles, around there. So those are some of the specifications, some of the generalities of the tires. Now I want to go into the review side of it, which I'm going to split up into 3 different categories. First, we're going to go over some of the pros and cons that I saw out of the tires, just overall in general. Next, we're going to go into how they were on the road, then how they behaved in the track. And when we split it up on those 2 different layouts, the road and the track, we're going to go in both wet and in dry. Some of the pros and cons. The pro, I think the biggest pro, the cost. These things cost, I've seen from, I'm on a 245 when I'm running the 17x9s. I've seen them costing anywhere between $70 per tire to $90 per tire maximum. Maximum $90 per tire. That's ridiculous. That's like you'll click buy faster than the newest Riley Reid video, if you're into that. I don't know if you're into that. Who knows what you're into? But I'm just saying, I click them pretty fast. Now, the reasoning behind this, I believe, is because I'm pretty sure these are meant for drifting. They're meant for it to be cheap, overall good tires that you can drift on, that are semi-grippy, but at the same time won't kill you on the street. So for that, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool how cheap they are. Now the cons. They're cheap. From my experience, it seemed like they were just a drift tire. It seemed like they had one purpose, and that was to get loose, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you just need to be prepared for that. So, and I think there's other tires that are a little better when it comes to having a sport compound, but also not sacrificing the safety aspects. Once again, it's good that they're cheap. It's also bad that they're cheap. You might not want such a cheap tire. And when I believe the marketing is purely for drifting, you need to keep that in mind when you're buying these tires, that they might not suit the purpose that you're using them for. Now, moving on to the road characteristics. They are very, very sporty feeling when they're in the dry. When I swapped out my stock tires, the stock all-season AS3s, the Michelin AS3s for these tires, not only did I move up in width, I went to a 9-inch wheel with a 245 compared to a 215. Some of what I felt could have been just the wider width, But also I noticed that my cornering was a hell of a lot faster going around corners. I live right next to a bunch of roundabouts. They're my favorite thing to hit on the way to work, coming home. It seemed much more stuck to the road with that compound. So not just the width itself, the width I felt in the stability, but overall, it felt pretty good. Now, this also goes for, starting and stopping. I could easily see that it helped in braking, it helped in accelerating as well. It really grips the road a lot better than an all-season would, which in my opinion, all-seasons feel like sandpaper or something. They only work, they don't work the way you want them to. They don't feel great. There's not a lot of feeling at all. Whereas these tires had a great amount of feeling on the road, and it was overall a very good experience on the dry road conditions. Now, when it comes to wet road conditions, I was petrified every time the rain would hit with these tires. But they didn't give me much confidence in the wet at all. Now, that also could have played into me having had experience on the autocross track in the wet with the Achilles tires, which really showed me the limits of them. And the limit, you hit that limit very, very quick in the wet when you're taking turns. When you're going straight and all that, it's not so bad. But when you're taking turns and also applying throttle, I was very hesitant to put in any amount of power than I needed other than coasting through a turn. It was not very awe-inspiring in that regard. Some of the reviews you see online, they say like, oh, it's great in the rain. Well, I kind of beg to differ. I don't think they were meant for the rain. I think they do have what's necessary for a rain when it comes to water evacuation and stuff like that. But I think just like any sportier tire, you really need to calm down when it's raining. You gotta slow down. A few occasions being on the highway, being on the turnpike here in Florida, especially South Florida, it's a straight downpour. It's a monsoon. It's worse than a monsoon. It's probably as much rain as a monsoon, honestly. And almost every time on the highway, I'd be white knuckle driving. Absolutely white. Well, they're already white, aren't they? Yeah, they're pretty white already. But they were whiter than they are right now, right? Gripping the steering wheel, just praying to God that I made it home safe. And that wasn't too great of an experience for me. But then again, tires like that are not meant to be driven at the same speed you would in the dry. So you should really take that into account when you move to a sporty compound. And it's one thing that I learned very early on, is that you do have to change your driving habits when you're in the rain. Next, we're going to talk about my experience on track at Autocross. This is not necessarily track days, I would say, but overall with Autocross, I feel like a lot of the same limits are hit. The only thing I can say is that the only big difference I can see is that warming up the tires at Autocross is a lot harder than it is on a track day. Track day, you run the risk of overheating probably a lot more. Autocross, not necessarily. Especially the events that I go to, you're not going to run the risk of overheating. So, Autocross in the dry. These tires are fun as hell, I gotta say. They're really, really fun. Are they going to be competitive? Probably not. It's a 400 tread wear. You're going up against guys with 200 tread wear. They are absolutely nailed to the road in dry conditions, whereas you're essentially on a drift tire. And if you're driving a rear-wheel drive car, you're going to see that pretty quick, that the tendency is oversteer, and it wants to stay in oversteer. It's been really fun, I can't lie. I've learned a lot from these tires, but at the same time, I can't wait to be on a more competitive compound when I do autocross events, etc. Now, when it comes to rain and wet conditions on track, I've had one event that was extremely wet, and I was on those tires. And I gotta say, the limit of these tires, as I mentioned earlier, comes at you very, very fast. It breaks loose extremely quick. I can't say it's unpredictable. I could definitely tell when I was pushing it, but it literally felt like when you're on a turn and you're going through throttle, you would slip just like you had PVC pipe on your tires or something like that. As soon as you got in the gas, boom, you're gone. So it was very interesting, and if you want to see my experience of that, the Autocross video which way is it going to be? It's probably going to be up here. The Autocross video from PBIR, one of my sessions, we did essentially full wet the entire session. There were big patches of puddles. You can see in that video I went off track, I spun out, or I was very close to spinning out a couple times, and I had to save the car. On a bunch of different occasions I was surprised by the limit, because the limit got so much more narrower than it is in the dry. Like I said, in the dry, very, very good, no complaints. In the wet though, whole different ball game. You got to really change your driving style. And that's just how it goes. That's generally what you should be doing. If you do know of a great tire that's a good in-between, that's also 200 tread wear, let me know. But at this point, I don't really want to do anything except for 200 tread wear when it comes to track. And with the commutes that I do, at this point, I'm more inclined to go to safety. And what I've done recently is switched out my wheels on a daily basis. Now I'm going to be using my stock wheels and running all seasons. And for track, I'm going to be using the wheels, the 17x9 wheels. So we've changed the way that we're going to do things from now on when it comes to events and daily driving. I think it's the right way to do it. We are now doing things correctly, in my opinion, when it comes to being competitive. We're no longer going to be trying to find these tires that are good in-betweens between daily and then also doing the autocross events. I just think that's asking for too much. And then at the same time, we have two sets of wheels. So why are we even bothering not using the one set? I don't want it to just be a storage facility in this garage. And speaking of which, I got to clean up a little bit. So I think we're doing the right thing here. And without further ado, I think I'm going to introduce you guys to the new tires. And the next video you'll see when it comes to Autocross, it's PBIR on December 13th. We're going to be on these new Johnnies, and we're going to have a hell of a time. So we're going to save that for later, but at least introduce you to the new Bridgestone RE71s. So like I said, these are the Bridgestone RE71s. They are a 245/40/17. A lot of good buddies of mine who are very serious in autocross have recommended these. Even the guy at the tire shop recommended these. And on Black Friday, there was a really, really great special on these. So I can't wait to run them. It should be very, very fun. We should get a whole different feel out of the car. And I can even tell you just from trying to get these out of the car once I loaded them up, this was sticking to literally every piece of my interior. Like, it is sticky. I've never had a tire like this, and I frankly can't wait. Based on some of the things I've heard from some of my buddies who are very serious about this stuff, and we're just going to see how it goes. So that's it for the review and the reveal of the new tires. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Like the video if you liked it, if you feel like it. Comment if you have a question on them. Like I said, they're super, super cheap, so I totally understand if somebody would be interested in these tires. So, until next time, peace.